Suna finished writing the final words with a fine, looping flourish. Edgar and Electra sat in silence, visibly moved by the depth of this bond. Astraea let out a deep, contented rumble, as if she, too, had understood every word. The fire crackled loudly one last time, and for a moment, it felt as though the spirit of Tarathos himself were present with them in the cozy parlor on Thal'zar, connected by the bond of these three sisters who had found their true purpose. The silence that followed Suna's words was not empty. It was filled with the gravity, and simultaneous lightness, of a final healing. The knowledge that their destinies were now safely preserved within the pages of the chronicle allowed the three sisters to banish the last vestiges of Viridian coldness from their hearts. The merging of souls. As their gazes met around the circle, there was no longer any pity, only pure respect. Electra passed around a fresh pot of tea, its steam rising like a wispy mist between their faces. The moment of acceptance. Alyssa, Lyria, and Thalia sensed that they were no longer merely the rescued. Suna's words had made it clear. Their story was now an integral part of the clan's identity. They were the living proof that the clan's radiance extended far beyond the borders of their own galaxy. The symbolism of the fire. While the wind outside whipped against the massive rock faces of Tidalon, driving snow in wild eddies through the narrow lanes, the hearth seemed to stand as an indomitable center of power. Edgar placed one final, massive log onto the flames, sending a shower of sparks spiraling upward, a silent signal of strength. Sanctuary within the rock. In the deep chambers of the stone city, sheltered by tons of rock and the unwavering loyalty of their companions, the girls felt a sense of security that Avenel could never have provided. Avenel had been fragile. Thal'zar, however, was like the clan itself, hard on the outside, yet at its core, full of warmth. Astraea stirred briefly in her sleeping place. Her massive head now rested heavily upon her forepaws as she snuffled softly. She was living proof of the enduring constancy of this pack. A gaze into the night. Remember, to grow, but not to suffer, Edgar murmured softly, almost as if repeating Suna's words to himself. He looked toward Electra, and in that gaze lay the entire history of their shared journey. The evening was drawing to a close. The members of the inner circle began quietly retiring for the night, yet the warmth of this conversation would sustain them through the entire frosty night ahead. The three sisters remained seated for a moment longer, gazing into the glowing embers. They knew that when they returned to Tarathos in the spring, they would not be flying back merely as pilots or owners. They would be flying as guardians of the clan spirit, ready to infuse the cold, technological world of Tarathos with the very same warmth they had received here tonight, by the fire. Winter on Thal'zar was harsh, but it was the forge in which their souls had finally become one. This winter, too, was harsh. Occasionally, the sun tore a hole in the low-hanging cloud cover, and the snow of the pristine valley glittered in 1,000 facets. Usually, this did not last long, and the dark clouds reasserted their dominance. Then Thal'zar grew somber once more, and the snow began to fall anew. Dense flakes filled the air, leaving barely any visibility. After hours, the snowfall subsided. The tracks that had previously etched themselves into the snow had vanished. Edgar, some of his daughters, and many of the inhabitants of Tidalon began once again to shovel the paths clear, while inside the houses, the fires slowly burned down. As the wind died down, white columns of smoke rose from the chimneys. They struck against the rocky overhang, swirling around it, only to ascend, as a single, unified cloud formed of many columns, across the plateau and up into the clear air. When the sun shone brightly, shadows rose along with them. As Astraea made her rounds through the town, her tracks were soon covered by others. a tangled labyrinth of trails leading everywhere and nowhere. They ended at front doors, snaked up steps, turned around this corner or that, or met an abrupt end when snow slid from a roof, burying everything beneath it. These tracks were laid in silence by figures wrapped in thick cloaks and sturdy boots. Only small white puffs of breath bore witness to what lay hidden beneath the furs. No one was in a hurry to reach their destination, except Astraea. She ran and ran, crisscrossing the narrow alleys, until she had had enough and sought admittance to her stable. The image of a winter. The image I paint of this winter on Thal'zar is marked by an almost palpable melancholy, yet simultaneously by a profound sense of security. It is a time when nature reveals its relentless power, compelling the inhabitants of the cliff city to turn their focus to the essentials. The warmth of community and the steadfastness of small gestures. The play of light and shadow, when the sun tears through the cloud cover for a few brief moments. Thal'zar is transformed, if only for an instant, into a jewel of 1,000 glittering facets. It is a fleeting magic that allows the harsh daily grind of shoveling snow to be briefly forgotten. The columns of smoke, the sight of white plumes rising from the chimneys, ascending over the plateau like a collective network of vital signs, illustrates the deep interconnectedness of the homes. Every fire burning within contributes to the greater whole of the city. The tracks, the tangle of footprints in the snow serves as a fleeting diary of the day. It tells tales of visits, of labor, and of aimless wanderings, before the next fresh layer of snow envelops everything once again in a pure, silent white. Astraea, the locomotive in the snow. In this setting, Astraea appears as the very embodiment of the clan's tireless spirit of life. While the humans, bundled in their furs, exhale only small puffs of breath and move with cautious deliberation. She defies the cold with sheer, raw power. The return. The image of her standing before the stable door, steaming like a locomotive, is a powerful one. Her large, dark eyes gazing out kindly from the frost, and the expressive play of her great ears, reveal that, despite her wildness and strength, she knows exactly where her place lies within the pack. The warmth of the stable. The transition from the biting cold outside to the humid warmth within the stable is the very epitome of home. Rubbing their fur dry, the colorful berries, and the tender touches behind their ears, this is the language of the clan, a language that needs no words. A pack in winter slumber. In these moments, when Astraea has been tended to and the pack huddles together in the warmth, the winter outside loses its terror. The three new sisters, Elissa, Lyria, and Thalia, experience here, for the first time, the true meaning of Thal'zar. It is not a place one possesses, but a place where one is unconditionally accepted. The silence of the snow settles over the worries of the past. In the warmth of the stable, the herd was reunited once more. Towels dried their fur, one hand offered colorful berries, another a twig to nibble on. The gentle caresses, or a scratch behind the ears, let them know, this is where I belong. The longer the winter endured, the deeper the bonds of community grew beneath the white blanket of snow. In conversations by the warming fire, with cups of steaming tea in their hands, accompanied by the sounds of hearty meals and laughter rippling through their ranks, they whiled away the time until it was time to nestle into the warmth of their furs. To feel the closeness of another, never to be alone, never to sleep alone, safe within protective walls, nurtured by the caring guidance of the clan. All this defined the clan and ensured its survival across generations. Every soul was welcome here, especially those who sometimes look back upon a bitter past. Here, they were exactly where they belonged. Here was their home. Loving arms were there to catch them when the pain became too great. A kind word, a gentle gesture to soothe their suffering. And then, when their eyes could finally look out upon the world without shedding tears, the pain began to subside, and the wounds began to heal. In this community, no one is ever alone. During the deepest phase of winter on Thal'zar, something occurs that no scanner and no logbook entry can ever fully capture. It is the metamorphosis of pain into strength. While outside, the white blanket seems to bury all life beneath it. Deep within the rock city, an invisible web of empathy and unwavering security takes root. The sanctuary of the community. The daily ritual by the fire is far more than merely a way to get warm. It is a sacred ceremony of belonging. The subtle senses, the familiar clinking of teacups, the hearty crunching of snacks, and the spontaneous laughter that sweeps through the ranks like a warm gust of wind, all these serve as anchors. They signal to the soul, you are safe. Physical proximity. When the time comes to retreat into their furs, it is not merely the wool or the hide that provides warmth. It is the certainty that, just a few centimeters away, another heart is beating. The banishment of loneliness is the clan's unwritten law. No one must traverse the darkness of the night alone. The guardianship of the elders. Under the leadership of Edgar and Electra, an atmosphere of benevolent vigilance prevails. They lead not through commands, but by holding open a space, a sanctuary. The healing of scars, especially for souls like Alyssa, Lyria, and Thalia, whose past tasted so bitter, this place is a revelation. When tears finally cease to flow, it is often thanks to nameless arms that caught them at just the right moment. A word, a gesture, often barely perceptible to outsiders, acts here like a balm upon the wounds of Verida. A gaze toward the future, when their eyes can finally look out once more. Unclouded by the veil of pain, they no longer see only what has been lost. They see the blue and green of the Tarathos yet to come. They see a world that they themselves will help to shape. Continuance born of love. It is this principle of unconditional acceptance that ensures the clan's survival across generations. It is a living organism that draws its strength from the healing of its members. In this community, no one is an island. When the winter wind rattles against the bulkheads, the clan responds with a collective radiance. Here, broken children become pilots, and slaves become planetary owners. Not through power, but through a simple, mighty promise: you belong here. This is where you belong. As the ashes of the fire slowly fade, the pack rests in a unity as solid as the obsidian stone awaiting its deployment in the hangar. Winter may be harsh, yet it is the womb from which a new world will be born in the spring.